Okay, well, welcome everybody to our HPS webinar for the day. So we have Sherwin-Williams presenting. Our main contact off our contract is, his name is Clifton, goes by CJ. He will be presenting along with Dawn, some of the architectural team from Sherwin-Williams. And so we're happy to have them on. And just to give you guys a little bit of overview, I'm Nathan. I'm the Director of Clinical and Ancillary Contracting for HPS. And so today's webinar is going to be focusing on Contract 53, which is Sherwin-Williams, Coding Innovations and the Healthy Building Movement. So they're going to talk a little bit about color and product innovations and trends in healthcare and education markets and some of those top programs Sherwin-Williams has to offer on our contract. And then also kind of go over some additional training opportunities and value adds for not just you as a company, but those who work for you as well. So further ado, CJ, I'll let you take it over.
Yeah, I appreciate the introduction. And to Nathan's point, this is for the Sherwin-Williams contract, which, majority of people would think of Sherwin-Williams and you think of a paint can, which is a good reason. Sherwin-Williams has been around for over 150 years and we manufacture our own paints and coatings. But what we look to do in this presentation is to dive into a couple different services and some different opportunities for you as customers of HPS and of Sherwin-Williams that maybe you aren't thinking about. So I can assure you that this will not be a 1-hour PowerPoint. I've done too many of these to make you guys go through that length. But what we tried to do is really jam-pack some different services that maybe you're not familiar with that would really benefit you, especially in the challenging times that we have right now with supply chain and all the different requests of asking our people to do more with less. So what I'd like to do is just first of all jump in and say thank you to Nathan and thank you for Kelly allowing us to do this. It's a great way to reach out to some different members that maybe we haven't had a chance to speak to. But I want to introduce myself first as jump over here. So there is my information. So CJ Handwork, National Account Executive, and basically what that means is I would be the person who's working with the team at HPS to make sure that the LOPs are connected and we're reaching out to the local field reps and the local stores to make sure that they're working with you. If you have paint questions, if you have service questions, if you have flooring questions, feel free to email me or call me at any time. I will tell you that if I'm traveling, which I am most of the time, it might be later that day until I get back to you if I'm with customers. So I would like to introduce Dawn. And Dawn, why don't you, if you could unmute and explain who it is that you are and what you do for Sherwin-Williams and all the wealth and knowledge that you bring to the table here.
Yeah, so my name is Dawn Sanoa. I'm the architectural account executive for Sherwin-Williams in the Michigan and greater Michigan area. And I primarily support architects, interior designers, and specification writers. So you may have those within your organizations that you're collaborating with, or you obviously might be working with them as an additional party on your project team. And so whether I'm working with you and your team directly or as part of that bigger team on a project, we might cross paths and I can help with some of that specification document. Color tools is a big thing, getting you color tools if you need them. But then as we talk through some of these slides too, some of the other services that I offer around education, presentations, that type of stuff. So really I'm here to complement CJ and the offering that Sherwin-Williams has and offers to each of your companies.
Perfect. Thanks, Dawn. And don't let Dawn fool you. Whenever there's a really hard question that I don't know the answer to, I typically email her, and she usually gets me back on track here. So very appreciative to have Dawn jump on this call today. And again, just another resource of specifications, colors, programs that we want to expose the team to today so that you know that these things are out there. So this is a pretty loaded slide. I've only got a couple slides that have this much information on them today, but really this is kind of just a quick overview of what we want to cover. And we're not going to go into the weeds on all of these topics, but really the three main points that I wanted to cover is just some supply chain updates on where we stand with coatings and flooring and all the different things that we supply. Some different training and CEU opportunities. Many of these things I'm assuming most of you probably are not aware of that we can provide you and your staff. And then lastly, the Sherwin-Williams segment specific offering. So that would be a little bit more focused on some product and some different things that we want to make sure you're aware of. So we'll spend a lot of time. Don's going to touch on color and some of the different training opportunities we have. And I think that that's going to open up maybe a couple different ideas that you might have as we go through the presentation. So one thing I would encourage everyone, I know that Nate kind of locked you out on the mute button or tried to earlier. If you have a question, feel free to put it in the chat. So Don's going to be checking the chat box as we go. And I can only see kind of the main screen right now with the small screen in the corner. But if you have a question, feel free to raise your hand. We don't want this to be us talking to you. We'd rather have some dialogue as we go through these items. So with that, here's the big slide that kind of breaks down who Sherwin-Williams is. And, most people know Sherwin-Williams is a huge company, 60,000 plus employees. We're headquartered right in Cleveland, Ohio, and we're actually building our new building as we speak. So it's very exciting to see a company here in the USA staying in the Cleveland Midwestern market. So that's great. We have a ton of stores, 4,700 stores across the country. We also have 1,500 different flooring locations that we supply plank, carpet, pad, all those different things that go on your floor. But really the most important part of this slide is understanding that as big as Sherwin-Williams is, it doesn't really matter for you as a customer unless you have that local contact. So knowing who your local store manager is, knowing who your rep is, if you don't know that person by name, I would encourage you to shoot me an email and let me try to connect you with that local team. You should have a store that's fairly close to you unless you're extremely far out in the rural markets. But you should also have a sales rep that's in that area. And the reason that's important is that sales rep is available. They're mobile. They can jump in the car. They can come out. They can do some color matching for you. They can recommend products. A lot of things that are at no cost to you. So if you don't have that contact point, we want to make sure that we get you that. And that's a very easy connection that we can make for you. The last thing I'll talk about on this particular slide is at the bottom there. You'll see some industry-leading portfolio of products. So what does that mean? Well, what that means is that obviously we manufacture our own coatings, but we also own the Purdy brand. We own the H&C brand, Krylon, and if you'll see in the bottom right corner there, Uniflex. Uniflex is our commercial roof coating program. So Uniflex is a company that's been around for many years, and Sherwin-Williams acquired them 20 or so years ago. These would be those elastomeric and silicone roof coatings. This is actually a very large market for us in the Ohio, Michigan, and kind of that Midwestern area, where we have to jam these projects into just a few months because our weather is not that great in this area. But Southeast, Southwest part of the United States, we saw a lot of roof coatings, and we won't get into really the nuts and bolts of the roof coating world right now, but just understand that with that particular line, we have certified installers who would test your roof, they would put the coating down, and we would discuss a warranty through Sherwin-Williams. So this is a huge cost savings for all of our commercial customers, whether it's healthcare or schools. It's a huge market for us. So something just to be aware of. If you need more information on that, please reach out to us. We'd love to have somebody come out, give you a free inspection. And sometimes we walk away and say, hey, this is not a roof coating opportunity. You need to tear this thing off. It is too far gone. But that's a free assessment from Sherwin-Williams. Okay. So the next slide I had was just talking a little bit more about supply chain. One of the things we talked about at the beginning of the agenda here is the supply chain for not only paint, but flooring. So we're going to touch on a few of those things. The main takeaway from this slide is that in my 20 years with Sherwin-Williams, we typically invest just about the majority of our money into research and development. We find out ways to create new innovative coatings and different paints and solutions. And I would say in the past year and a half, 2 years, it's been a little bit crazy for all of us. The Sherwin-Williams company has shifted their focus towards investing in being able to manufacture and consistently produce these gallons of paint, these different coatings that you folks need on a day-to-day basis. I will ask you to jump into the chat box here as I'm kind of talking about supply chain. If you don't mind, just submit in the chat box why you think there was a paint shortage last year. Because I'd like to hear what your thoughts are and really what you heard in the field, if you even knew that there was a paint shortage last year. So because of that, And with that large investment, Sherwin-Williams has focused on developing a few of these different locations. So Fernley, Orlando, Statesville, these are some of the locations where we manufacture our coatings. We shifted and said, hey, let's make sure that we can get those raw materials. Let's make sure that we can get these manufactured gallons and get them out to our distribution plants, get them out to our stores to make sure that 2022 is a much easier transition into those summer months. So Orlando probably is one of the largest investments, and I think that with those investments, they had noted, I think, an additional 50 million gallons annually that we're going to manufacture, which for me is news that I love to hear. It's kind of music to my ears. So again, just an update on the investments with the manufacturing on the Sherwin-Williams side. So I'm going to speak a little bit to this slide, and then Don's going to jump in and take you kind of a different route here with some training and some different color trends and things like that. What I wanted to talk about on this particular slide is that because of the labor shortage, I'm sure that most or all of you are really challenged with hiring more people or trying to hire people to replace folks that have left, or even just asking your current team to do a little bit more. I know that in Sherwin-Williams, we're doing the same thing where we're trying to hire people. We're trying to make sure that we cover all bases. But when you ask a person that's been on your team for a while to do an additional job, a lot of times we ask them to do that without giving them proper training. And I think that's just something that we're dealing with right now. So if you see this slide here, it talks on the left-hand side a little bit about some online training. Sherwin-Williams has a Paint Your Path program, and really what it is it's a Sherwin-Williams managed website that was created for folks that wanted to go into the painting industry. So if a person wanted to open up their own business and maybe learn more about painting, they could dive into this website and get a lot of really good resources. What I've found with my customer base, whether it's healthcare, schools, multifamily, contractors, there's actually digital online training that is in this website that are simple courses. So it ranges from climbing equipment safety to brushes and rollers and just general coatings and paints and primer information. So these are simple things that you could provide your team. They could do it on their phone if they wanted to. A lot of the videos are 5 to 10 minute videos, really quick blocks of information. And then there's a quick test at the end that they take, kind of a test your knowledge to see if they retain the information that they watched on those videos. So I think there's 9 to 10 videos, maybe 12 videos on there that really have a broad range of information. So that would be kind of that starter level, early level information of, hey, we're asking a maintenance person who usually cleans things up, more of a custodial position. We're going to ask that particular person to maybe do some painting this year. We want to do some exterior painting or some interior painting. This would be a great way to mirror that transition to that different job. The other part that I want to talk about on the right-hand side there is you see where it says donate your color, and then it talks about National Painting Week. This is something that we didn't do last year, the past 2 years, just obviously because of the restrictions and things that are going on. But with the world opening back up right now, I would encourage you that if you wanted to try out a new product, maybe you want to try an exterior coating that repels dirt, and that sounds like something that you want to take a look at. If you purchase those materials, our stores and our reps many times will come out and actually demonstrate how to put these coatings on with you to make sure that you're putting it on at the right thickness, the right temperatures. But if you have any type of philanthropy project, we will actually partner with you as well there. So it's another opportunity to kind of work with your store, work with your rep. There's a lot of different things that we do across the country, but I can tell you that that is a big push for Sherwin-Williams to really partner with local organizations and schools especially to knock out some projects and maybe get some free labor. I can't guarantee that our store managers and reps are the best applicators, so you might get some drips on the floor, but if you wanted some support, they could definitely come out and help you with that. So that's one of those things I would definitely recommend you take a look at. We got the little blue ribbon there saying, hey, this is one of those programs that you should definitely be taking a look at. I'm going to let Dawn jump in here and talk a little bit more on kind of the high level courses. Obviously entry level with some online courses or some hands-on training are great, but Dawn's going to talk more towards maybe that design build firm or the folks that she deals with on the architects and how we could possibly provide some CEUs as well.
Yeah, absolutely. So the continuing education courses that we offer are definitely a little bit different than the courses CJ just outlined. These are typically 50 minutes to an hour. These are accredited programs specifically for architects and designers through AIA and IDCEC. However, we know that these content can be self-reported to several other positions within the project hierarchy and your facilities, and we provide certificates for that. So when we look at that, you see some examples there on the right-hand side of some of the courses. Advanced Coatings for Healthcare Facilities, Coding Innovations in the Healthy Building Movement, Paint 201. This is just 3 of probably about 25 different programs that we offer. And so you'll see there it's a wide range of coding educations, and it's appropriate for all different audience members and people who have different levels of paint understanding already. So what I do like about each of these courses is there's a couple of sort of paint basics or paint 101 to set a foundation, and then really dives into the specifics of the subject matter. So you can see there, in addition for architects and designers, these courses can be self-reported for GBCI in many cases. And then again, if you're not an architect or designer, but you do need continuing education credits and you're able to self-report, we can provide a certificate to you so that you can self-report for any number of other organizations and certifications. So what does this look like? Typically right now, these are still virtual, also knowing that your teams might be spread across several facilities or be on the road just like we are. So we can set these up on a Teams platform like this, also on Zoom, or if you have another platform of your choice. And we really provide a lot of it. We'll bring the content, we'll take attendance, we'll follow up with certificates. So we can make it really easy for your team to log in wherever they're at and have, similar to this, an interactive presentation where they can also ask questions at the end. Perfect. So now we'll talk a little bit about color. And we know, as you can see here, color can affect the energy, the performance, the mood of a space. We know when we look at educational settings, color has a big impact on how people are productive or energetic in a space. We know that in healthcare facilities can have a healing approach. And so really just kind of kicking it off with this super colorful space, you can see there it's the Phoenix Children's Hospital. But now we're going to switch to the next slide, and I'll kind of talk about how color theory, something we could talk about for hours, can really impact how a space feels to the user and the type of result that that user gives to you. So whether it's a student, an employee, or somebody else in a space, you even think of like marketing opportunities too when you photograph your space, whether you're advertising events that you're doing or trying to attract a new client yourself. But here what we're looking at are colors that to help to improve, productivity and ease anxiety. So a couple of different locations there that you see, but what you see is really blues and greens that are this dark, saturated tone. They're not bright and poppy like you might see in pediatrics or a young educational setting, but these are meant for a slightly older student, maybe second grade up, even through higher education. And we look at educational settings too. We're looking at some of those areas that could be like libraries. You have sometimes private offices for admin, some of these collaboration spaces that are meant around, concentration and productivity. When we look at healthcare, again, we still are going to have areas that need to be productive for the medical staff, for training. You can see on the lower right hand, we even have something that looks like a waiting room that again is going to ease anxiety. So these are great colors when we're thinking about color theory and how we need the space to feel to the user. And this is just high level. I'm just going to go through this on a couple slides, but this is something that we can dive into with your specific project, your specific types of facilities across many locations. And then closing on that CEU piece, we do have several continuing education courses that are focused just on color as well. But let's look at another example of color. So here we've vacated that easing anxiety and productivity, and we're totally talking about something different, promoting creativity and positivity. So you can see we went from the cool saturated colors on the last slide to these significantly brighter colors, much warmer, those yellows, those reds, those oranges. So when we think about those educational facilities, we're thinking about more of collaboration spaces where you're trying to encourage team building, trying to work on projects hands-on versus something that's more of a written assignment or a computer-related assignment, but something more hands-on for the students. And then, of course, younger students as well as their learning, play areas, childcare facilities. And then when we think of the healthcare facilities, it is important to find that balance. Perhaps this is physical therapy, some gathering spaces for residents, other spaces that are going to, again, create positivity and promote, this really fun atmosphere. And then I want to take a look at one other type of color palette as well. And so here you can see these are soothing, create a calm, organic, lived-in feeling. And so healthcare design, whether it's acute care or senior living or assistant living, over the last several years has made a pretty big shift. So instead of being these sterile environments, or instead of being these, maybe on trend for design that's happening in other segments, it's really turned into this resi-mercial. I like this word. I'm sure several of you have heard of it, but blending commercial design and residential design together, resi-mercial. So you can see these palettes are what you would have in a lot of homes. These are warm colors, natural, very comfortable colors that people would have in their home, but we're putting them into acute care, we're putting them into senior living, we're putting them into assisted care, because research has shown that that comfort level that they feel in those spaces, those users, helps them to actually heal faster, have lower anxiety, lower blood pressure. And then, of course, thinking of that marketing aspect too, the facilities obviously photograph great, and again, helping in that client retention too. So shifting away from color, we'll talk about some innovative coatings. CJ started by saying, hey, Sherwin-Williams is more than paint. Here's all these other things we offer, like roof coatings, stains. But within the world of paint, how can we provide a solution to you that's more than color on the wall and a product that protects the substrate so that it's cleanable or touches up? And so as we move to the next slide here, we'll talk about something that you might not think about with paint. Paint can actually help you with controlling organic odors in a space, which if this is new info for you, it's pretty cool actually. And you'll see it's a little wordy here, but these are some great examples. Unpleasant odors can detract from even the most beautiful design and well-maintained space, and they really have a negative impact on satisfaction. So some great examples, multi-use facilities could have fitness areas, coffee shops or other food services, pet grooming, and all of these odors as you're moving through the space can be something that you smell, that fitness, the sort of that well worked out sweaty person smell, to a coffee shop which smells great, to pet odors that might not smell great, all hitting you at the same time and can leave you with a negative impact. The second one there, employee lunchrooms and other food service places. I mean, I have to admit, I've been the employee that's burnt popcorn at 2 p.m. when I wanted a snack and smelled the whole office up. I've had coworkers that heat up fish and really for lunch and really smell the place up. So thinking of some of these odors that really deter from the user experience. The next bullet there, residents and visitors to assisted living facilities, that fresh smell free of organic odors. And to recap, organic odors are really waste, pet, and food and smoke odors are the main odors we're talking about here. And that's in a previous role I was in that was very healthcare driven. We talked about how that was one of the biggest deterrents of visitors to an assisted or senior living care facility that they were potentially going to move into themselves or move in with a family member. If they walked in and had a negative odor, they were out. Very rarely did they stay beyond the tour to investigate the facility longer. And then again, multifamily units, you could go down a hallway, you have everyone with their own kitchen and very different cooking and pet odors coming out of that. So these are the odors, these are the challenges. What's the solution? As we go to the next slide here, we'll talk about a coating that can provide a great solution for you. So you might already be familiar with our Super Paint product. We currently, or previously, I should say, had one interior product called Super Paint and one exterior product called Super Paint. And now we're really building out a Super Paint family. So this is a product called Super Paint with air purifying technology. It's different than the existing Super Paint interior. So knowing that those are two different products. And this actually helps to eliminate organic odors in a space. So again, those come from waste, pets, smoke, and a couple other places like that. And what happens is when that odor molecule hits the painted surface, that chain is broken down, it just neutralizes the odor. So great example is this is technology that we've used in a previous product, so it's well tested, but in the Super Paint line, we're marrying it with the high quality, high satisfaction that we have of Super Paint. But we used to carry around two jars. So one had paint with this technology, one had standard paint, and they both had coffee beans in it. The one with standard paint smelled like coffee when you open the jar. The other one, when you open the jar, smelled like nothing. So trying to help you visualize, what does neutralizing an odor smell like? It smells like nothing. And so some great examples here, senior living is just a great example of where we can use that. Anywhere you have food and pets, student housing, locker rooms and fitness areas, in a wide range of healthcare areas are places that this could provide a solution to you and to your users and clients as well. And so there's the blue ribbon, the takeaway, one of the takeaways for today. So let's talk about one other type of cool technology that paint has that can be a solution for you. So now we're going to switch gears and talk about bacteria. So something that's probably been on our minds for the last 2 years in particular, that was viruses, this is bacteria. Definitely want to make sure it's clear that this is different. But we're talking about staph infections, MRSA, E. coli, and we know that these are present while we think of healthcare. We also know they're present in a wide range of other facilities, athletic facilities, schools, hotels, office buildings, the list goes on. We know from research that once these bacteria appear, they're really difficult to get rid of, even sometimes requires multiple cleaning procedures. And then we also know that surfaces might look clean, but are hosting these bacteria. And we also know that a lot of facilities have wonderful multi-layered cleaning facilities for surfaces, for door handles, those types of things, but they may or may not have something for their walls. And sometimes it's just as simple as only clean the walls when they're visibly dirty. And so what we can do is introduce, as you see there in that bottom box, a paint that has microbicidal technology. So what is that? It's paint that will kill 99.9% of certain bacteria, again, staph infections, MRSA, E. coli, on the painted surface, and then will actually continue to kill those bacteria at a rate of 90% or above for 4 years. So this is not meant to be the end-all be-all, but to help build out an entire cleaning protocol for a space or for a facility. So you might be thinking like, well, that's great. That's why we have cleaning protocols for surfaces and doorknobs. That's what people touch. But we know, and the picture you see here of the athletic facility is a great example, that people do interact with the walls. So the athletic facility has great protocol, wipe down your equipment when you're done. But how many people then go right over to the wall, put their hand on the wall to stretch, lean against the wall, and do squats? So, I mean, I was sitting there on my treadmill watching this happen over and over again at my gym, and the takeaway was like, oh my goodness, the walls are disgusting. Don't touch the walls. And so thinking again of where are these areas that you can benefit from this. So some great examples, again, there's going to be senior living facilities, and I should clarify, this is an additional Super Paint product. So Super Paint with sanitizing technology is the name of this product. So there's 3 interior Super Paints, 1 exterior Super Paint. Each has its own value and unique attributes. So senior living, again, a great example where we might be very concerned about certain spaces and bacteria that is transferred there, or just the community at large. Schools and daycare is a great example, especially at a smaller age group. They're touching the walls, they're playing tag, they're doing different things like that. Healthcare facilities, we think of some of the things from, ICUs where just every precaution has to be taken, up to waiting rooms where it's just high traffic, athletic facilities, as I touched on, and other public areas where we already have a wall coating that is acrylic, that cleans, but maybe again, we could benefit from that extra benefit of killing bacteria on the painted surface. And I'll just note as I wrap up on this slide that these are crazy claims for a paint company to make, right? Like we don't just test it in our lab and bring this to market. We worked with the EPA for 4 years for them to independently test the product in labs. And this is an EPA certified technology, and it's been on the market, for a couple of years now as well, but new to the super paint line.
So thanks, Don. I want to shift gears here a little bit, and the takeaway there is that you've heard the phrase in the past that paint's paint, right? Paint is not just paint anymore. There's a lot of different technology that's there. These products are readily available, and we're going to provide the membership here some discounted rates on these products in April and May of this year. So if you are interested in trying out these products for some repaints or things that you have coming, that super paint line will be a discounted rate for you. So the paint is interesting, but the other part that I wanted to bring to your attention as well is that dealing with hospitals and different universities and schools and commercial properties in my career, what I began to find is that many of these locations are using some of these different products. And some of my largest customers purchase the Simple Green, whether it's the D Pro 3 or the D Pro 5. They have a couple different reasons why you might use one in restrooms or shower rooms, but also the Fiber Lock, which the Shockwave RTU product. The difference being the Fiber Lock or the Shockwave is something that was used to spray down facilities during the COVID pandemic. So many of our customers purchase the Fiber Lock from us. It's ready mixed. You can load it into your sprayers, which we also sell, and take care of your school or your hospital based on those certain protocol that you might have. My favorite, personally, is Spray 9. I use it at my own house. I get the small bottles because I do have 3 young boys, and I've told this story to a lot of people. But when they come in from playing outside, they put their hands on the wall and things get dirty. So many of the coatings we have will actually stand up to the Spray 9. But these are all different products that, on the maintenance side of your facility, this is a huge need for many of our schools, universities, and hospitals where we can also supply you these products. So if you have an interest in this, or if you're looking for some of these products, many of these are going to be in that single gallon or quart or spray bottle that we have on our shelves. But some of the customers we have will actually order in drums or even totes of the Simple Green product lines because of the large amount of usage they have at their facilities. So feel free to reach out to me if you have questions on this. We can take a look at any of the different cleaners that you're using. Many of you have different partitioners that you might have in your maintenance shops. If you have contracts, I completely understand that. But if it's a product line that you want to discuss, we can help you with those things. So before we go any farther, Don, do we have anybody that chimed into the chat box of why we have a paint shortage or why we did?
We do. So we have a couple answers. A few were not aware that we had a shortage, and then also that manpower issues caused the paint shortage. So those were the responses that we received.
Perfect. So I won't dwell on this too much. We did have a paint shortage in 2021. The reason being, we actually had a large group of our manufacturers who make our raw materials that go into our paint claim force majeure. And I had to Google search that to understand what that actually meant. I'll admit it. But really what that meant was in Texas, we had the large deep freeze for about a week, about a year ago, a year and a half ago, I guess. And what that did is it caused all those raw material manufacturers to freeze, and many of their lines and their machines and their production basically exploded, froze and split. So much of last year, those raw material manufacturers were not able to make those raw materials that we needed. So I would say that transportation, lack of labor, all those different things, they definitely played a role. But it really wasn't COVID. It wasn't the giant ship that got stuck in the Suez Canal or wherever that guy got stuck last year. It was really just the deep freeze in Texas. So again, an update on paint and coatings. Had a call Monday, to review where we stand, and we are in a much better place moving into 2022. I would, however, recommend that if you do have some projects that are coming up, whether it's a exterior repaint or a large common area that you really are going to need a good amount of paint, let our reps in our stores know ahead of time so that they can stage those materials for you, get those orders put together, and deliver them when you need them. We also do free delivery. So just be aware of those things. I think it's just good to be in the know of what happened in 2021 and that we're in a better place in 2022. So the last thing that Don had in here, and I wanted to touch on this a little bit more than paint, high performance flooring. Many of the schools, many of the hospitals, many of the universities that you'll see in these pictures have different decorative flooring that we actually work with, commercial grade or industrial type contractors who are able to do the terrazzo, who are able to do the epoxy flake floors. There is some very interesting and really neat types of floorings that you see in these different common areas. So we want you to be aware that we are a manufacturer of these types of coatings. We do work with these commercial contractors that do these very large projects. And Dawn is one of those folks who helps specify and ensure that we're meeting the VOC limits and the restrictions and the different things, whether it's Michigan, Ohio, or dare I say California. There's always going to be those different requirements. So Don, anything you want to add on this slide before we move on here?
The biggest thing I'd add is customization. So we do have standard colors for all of these, but we also have a lot of custom options. So if you think of branding, we can help with that. So specifically the flake floor and the deco quartz, you're looking in the middle and the lower right. We have probably 50 different solid color flakes and solid color sand that we can mix in different ways. But terrazzo, we have tons of options. You tell us what Sherwin-Williams color you want as the background. You give us inspirational imagery of aggregate, and we can make custom terrazzo for you or match existing terrazzo. If you're doing a renovation and moving a wall, and now you have 6 feet all down a hallway of not enough terrazzo, we can actually match existing terrazzo. So I think that's the biggest takeaway is customization and then knowing these are poured in place so they can be a seamless floor and really help with that sanitation piece.
Perfect, thank you. And obviously Don looks at things differently than I do. I look at this and say, okay, please don't ask your maintenance person to do this floor. Let us help you find those contractors. Let us help you find those professionals that do this on a daily basis so that you get the look in the performance that you are looking to achieve. Okay. Last couple slides here. We're going to move fairly quickly through these because we don't want to take up the full hour. I think we're aiming for another 5 or 10 minutes here. So this is a very again probably the second loaded slide that we have here. But really what it talks about is just in that construction and then also that maintenance process in your facilities, kind of that circle that we look at where we try to put some specifications out there for a healthcare system so that we're consistent throughout those different properties that you might manage. We have the reps who are able to go out and do a site visit, take a look at the needs that you have, the color design support. We're going to talk about that here in a minute, the technical assistance, and then the coding and maintenance guides. Once we complete a project, that doesn't really mean that it's over. In fact, that actually means that we should secure that information so that we can hand that off to your maintenance team. So now they know what the color is, they know what the product is. It's easier for them to find those things. So these are just a couple bullet points of different things that we have. Due to time, we won't spend a whole lot of time on each individual one here, but again, a couple takeaways. We talked about color marketing and design. So here's a really good example of what we call photo imaging. So you see the left-hand side there. Actually, I'm sorry, the right-hand side is a digital image. The left-hand side is something that our team downtown in Cleveland, Ohio, put together for the customer. And I'll see if this works, but this is a live link. So I don't know if you can see this, Don. Are you able to see it on your end? Okay. Sometimes the slides don't follow where I'm going here. So really what you'll notice is that with any of these digital images, they can provide you some popular color schemes. And as a customer, you can jump in here and say, hey, I really like urban, don't so much like the seaside, but I do like autumn. Let's look at some of these different options. And once you create this board, you can save these different systems that we put in place, and it becomes kind of a portfolio of color for you, if you will. So again, I don't have the time today to go through all the details here, but I think it's important to know that this is something that is at no cost to you. This is something Sherwin-Williams can provide you. And it usually takes about a week or so to get these things put together. Okay, let's see if we can keep going with the slideshow and not goof this up. Okay, core products. So again, we're not going to spend all day on products, but I think it is interesting to discuss some of these different options we have. The interior paints that we typically see in the commercial and healthcare and schools are the Promar lines. So Promar 200 and 400 are the standard. The exterior paints would be Super Paint and Resilience. Those are things that most contractors and most maintenance folks know. What I would encourage you to do is take a look at this Pro Industrial line. The reason being, this is kind of that hybrid between a typical architectural or a wall paint and more of those higher end epoxy industrial type coatings. So it's kind of that hybrid that meets right in the middle where you get great durability, but you still get pretty simple application, very easy to apply. And the reason that this is important in your facilities is I think we've all been to a hospital or a school where you go to push on the door and the door is kind of sticky. It's kind of soft. There's kind of that peeling paint where there's about 30 coats right where your hand goes. We can help you with that. So cleaning it properly, prepping it properly, and then using these pro industrial coatings will give you that very hard finish. It'll give you that durability. So you're not painting it every 3 months. You're painting it maybe every 1 or 2 years because of the need to keep it looking clean. So Pro Industrial is definitely something that if you're not using those products, you should be looking at those. A couple other really interesting products we have here. The exterior of your building. Loxon is the concrete coating line that we have, and we've had it for years. There's different concrete primers, concrete top coats, even elastomeric type coatings. But this Loxon self-cleaning acrylic is something that's really taken off the past 2 or 3 years here. And the reason being is it's a little bit unique in the fact that when you put this coating on, when it rains, it actually will help release that dirt. So if you're in a downtown environment or you're next to a construction site, we have a customer who painted their building with a standard paint and a large construction site was right beside them. And you would be surprised how much dirt stuck to the building. So with this type of coating, when it rains, it will remove a lot of that dirt. The other option is a light power wash annually will also help it shed that dirt. Very weather resistant, great coating for concrete, but also stucco and many other different uses there as well. So I want to bring this to your attention because it really is kind of becoming the norm or the standard, if you will, for exterior concrete, whether it's tilled up or poured in place or stucco. Those types of products are being coated with this Loxon self-cleaning. And then as we start to wrap up here, again, just high level roof coatings, pavement marking. If you need pavement marking products, we can help you with that. The high performance flooring is something that Don mentioned. General Polymers, you might hear that name. That was the previous name of our high performance division. So if you ever hear General Polymers, understand that's our high performance division. And then the last couple slides here talking about flooring. So we discussed flooring. We are one of the largest, if not the largest, distributor of Shaw and Mohawk in the entire country. And that is due to our commercial relationships and our multifamily relationships. So if you need plank, if you need VCT, if you need carpet, pad, whatever it may be, even sheet goods, you should definitely reach out to our team to see if we can give you some updated numbers on what that might look like. I will say that the update on the cost of the plank and the cost of the flooring are going to continue to rise. Many of those reasons are in that picture. I think we all saw the ships floating out there at sea earlier this year, but there are some domestic products that we have as well. So carpet and plank that is available in the United States. The challenge there is that we had a truck driver shortage last year. So it all kind of comes together here and just an overall challenge with flooring. But we can find you some products that are available that also meet those price points if that's something you want to look at. This is just a slide to show you with our flooring partnership. We do have regional managers across the country, and we can connect you if you're looking to do a large project at a healthcare or a school system. These would be the folks that would take point, and I would work directly with them to help you. The last thing I have to talk about here, and before we open it up, is Nathan had talked about at the top of the presentation here, the Preferred Business Partnership Program. So you currently have an employee program that HPS is able to provide and share with your employees. We are updating this moving into 2022, and it will give you additional paints and coatings discounts, as well as brushes, rollers, any of those painting supplies that you would need as well. So stay tuned. I'm working with Kelly and Nathan to get this updated as soon as possible. And the next month, you should see this coming out that you can share this with your employees too.
CJ and Dawn, thank you again for today and for sharing great information about Sherwin's. I always seem to learn something.